Yasrab, you're actually in Poland right now with Muslim Hands. What's the situation on the ground in Poland? Obviously, that's where you're obviously, I presume, on the border with Ukraine and dealing with people who are flooding in.
Sure, Jazakallah khairan, brother Akhil. Yeah, absolutely. So our surge emergency team left the UK last Friday, and myself and my German colleague, and even the chairman and the founder of Muslim Hands has actually arrived today, this afternoon, into Poland. We landed in Krakow around about 3:30, 4 p.m. Polish time. And the reason we've come here is to bolster the aid response. Alhamdulillah, we have obviously our search team on the ground, but we've also partnered with a local Muslim registered NGO on the ground, Muslim Aid Foundation. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll be uniting with their staff and volunteers before Jummah to pack the aid, which people, subhanAllah, thousands of pounds have been donated already to the Ukrainian refugee crisis appeal that we launched at the end of last week.
What will that aid consist of, Yasrab? What will you actually be doing?
Oh, yeah, and that's an excellent question, because, there's a huge amount of questions being asked of charities like ourselves in terms of how can people help? And there is a huge frustration and a will to help. But it's just about helping in the best possible manner. So one thing that's absolutely been observed by our surge team on the ground is that at the border, the aid there's plentiful aid actually on the borders, and that's really due to the generosity of the Polish people and beyond that. There's tremendous amounts of aid on the border regions where people are staying typically between 3 to 12 hours. The issue is what happens next, which is when they get transported to larger cities. So this is where we'll actually be doing our distributions in Warsaw, in the capital, and also in Krakow. And we're in Katowice, where we'll actually be doing the packing as well as distribution. It's what happens to those families next. And this is when they're really in a time of need, where they may have a roof over their head, be it a flat or any sort of camp. And imagine this, as one of the guests just said, over 2 million. We're hearing it's over 2.2 million Ukrainian refugees at the moment, of which Poland has borne the brunt of those. That's over 1.2 million. That's even up to Monday. So the number is much higher now, have flooded into Poland. So this is why we're establishing our aid distribution here. So what our search team has also been ascertaining is what are the actual needs of the people. So we've been doing a thorough needs assessment, talking to many families that are arriving to ascertain exactly what it is they need. So in terms of our packing and distributing tomorrow, and again, we'll be showing that across our social media over the weekend as well, tomorrow and over the weekend, is that we're providing essential non-perishable food items, again, to the Ukrainian diet. So it's foods that they're used to eating, and all of that will, of course, be halal as well. And beyond that, we're also providing hygiene kits, much needed hygiene kits, as well as blankets. Even the temperatures right now in Katowice are -7, and I can't begin to tell you, it's bitterly cold, and there's also a wind chill through the air. So we absolutely feel for the thousands upon thousands of refugee families that are flooding into Poland, but beyond as well as the families who are, of course, internally displaced within Ukraine itself. So, my biggest advice really would be, and I know Islam Channel viewers are incredibly generous and they always look for opportunities and how to assist people, but it's a question of knowing how to. What I would simply say is just make sure that you make a donation to charities that have, secure networks on the ground. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to do that ourselves as one of the charity partners of Islam Channel. And there isn't a need, to be clear, there isn't a need for people to take lorry loads or for volunteers to come here and bring aid. And certainly not to the border regions where actually there's plentiful aid, but really where the work really needs to be done is in the major cities once the actual refugee families have been at least temporarily
thank you
housed.
for that, Yasrab. Fully, obviously can't comment enough on the work that you guys are doing out there. It's an amazing thing to do, and you're right. You're talking to the right channel here. The viewers of Islam Channel never stop giving money. Obviously, on the ground there, have you seen many of, you talked about halal food and obviously Muslims working in the local Muslim community. That might become as a bit of a surprise to many people, thinking about that part of Ukraine that you're talking about and also bordering onto Poland. What are you making of the story yourself? You've obviously heard about this story of the people from Asia or from Africa who are complaining about racism, etc. Is it a big problem, or is it actually these isolated cases?
Look, the European conflicts are very dear to Muslim Hands Heart. Actually, we were established in 1993 on the back of the Balkans crisis. So that terrible breakup of Yugoslavia and what happened to the Muslim population in Bosnia. That actually is what led to the forming of Muslim Hands. So, European conflicts is something very, very dear to Muslim Hands. And actually, we were born out of that. And I guess that's also why I think our actual chairman and founder, Sayyid Lakhdar Hussain Shah Sahab, has felt the need himself to be personally on the ground as well, distributing the aid, which we'll be doing tomorrow and over the weekend. Look, it's simple. It's for sure our search team has absolutely identified there are many Muslims. There's something like, in fact, again, it's all unofficial figures, but there is a feeling of in and around 5 to 10% of those flooding across the borders from Ukraine into Poland are actually are of a Muslim background. And that includes Ukrainian Muslims. So these are the Tatar Muslims who have called Ukraine their home for centuries upon centuries. And actually, I was just hearing anecdotally, even tonight, that one of our partners on the ground was saying that Muslims coming actually into Poland are surprised at the lack of the number of Muslims actually in Poland, where in Poland the Muslim number is about 100,000, whilst in Ukraine it's unofficially in and around 1 million, if not more, with many masajid. So before we think that Muslims aren't caught up in this, I think that would be wrong to say that. And like you said and identified, there are definitely also many a Muslim student, as well as somebody who came to Ukraine as a student who then went on to work, that have also been absolutely caught up in this. These bombs that are being dropped do not differentiate by somebody's religion or creed. So it's absolutely true. And because, alhamdulillah, here's a really good news for Islam Channel viewers. Because they're aware that we're on the ground doing the needs assessment and that we are providing things like halal meat as well, which will be part of the distributions, they've reached out to us. There's whole communities who have arrived now in Polish cities, be it from Warsaw or also to Krakow, who are knowing that there's a Muslim NGO from Britain that's arrived here and it's working.
Okay, well, that's good to know, Yasser. I have to cut you short there. I'm sorry, just going to give Emily the last word here on